Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch, the best in the business since 1974. You got to get the web store. I mean, you get good stuff like this, just marvelous T-shirt, great quality. I mean, you and they're good people. NAI, born and bred, hard workers, good quality for the money. But you don't come to hear me prattle on about them. You want to hear from the coach. And today we have Marc Benavidez from William Penn. Coach, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. Not a biggest fan of your shirt, but I'm doing great.
I always try to at least match the conference. I try to match the team if I've got the stuff. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm begging for William Penn stuff, but I try to match.
Noted. I got you down. I got you.
I appreciate that, Coach. You're coming into your second season with the Statesmen. You replace an absolutely phenomenal guy at head coach, Coach Hafner, at William Penn. Is there something nice to being able to come into a place where you go, it doesn't feel like there wasn't that much chaos here. It was a decently run program. You didn't have the wins maybe, but it's definitely you're on a solid ground.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've met Todd a couple times. I've only met him or talked to him one time face to face, after this transition, but heard nothing but great things from him. I've talked to a number of alumni that have said nothing but great things. Homecoming had a handful of different alumni here talking about old stories and, how he was as a person and what he had done for them as a person too. And no, like you said, absolutely. It was a program that had a tremendous amount of on-field success for a number of years, and things kind of dwindled down a little bit toward the end there. But nonetheless, it was a person that knew how to be successful on the field and off the field, and something for myself personally, able to come here and make some tweaks, and hopefully do whatever I can to try to reach his win total at some point in time, and try to reach some of the success that he was able to accomplish here at some point in time. And no doubt, like it's never easy. And all of us, we all have our frustrations at different places we're at. And when you're at a place, for 19 years, you've seen everything, that William Penn had to offer or didn't offer and all these different things. And so, extremely grateful for what he had done for the program, even though I wasn't really here as he was here, but, definitely in a good situation to where there's a very good base and core and a good understanding too, from the administration of what it takes. That's huge for me moving forward, and that was big for us this last year.
Well, Coach, going through the your schedule from last year, I'm sitting there and I'm wondering, boy, have you ever on Twitter/X there's an account called Scoreagami, and you wonder if a 6-2 game might be a rare score for the Scoreagami. Man, that's a way to start off a season there. That's a defensive game, am I right?
Barn burner. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I know we had there's all kinds of crazy stats. It's been too long since I remember them, but I heard every stat in the book, I think, after we played that game. And it was definitely a wake-up call for a lot of people, a humbling experience for a lot of people too. A win's a win. I'd much rather win the game like that than lose the game like that, obviously. But No, it was great at the same time. Very first game of the season against a new opponent, a team that William Penn hadn't played in recent years. Us not exchanging film with them coming into the conference, and so not seeing what they had done in the past or scheme, and having somewhat of an idea, but at the same time, it's always hard and difficult, that week one opponent. And important things for us as a program was really noticing just the fight. We had a lot of mistakes. The only 2 points they scored was a snap over a punter's head. And we had a young quarterback made some big mistakes. You had some guys that missed a block or missed a catch or missed a route or whatever it was, but still an experience where all of us understood it was tight the entire game. Anybody could have given up. It was a hot day in St. Louis, and nonetheless we still pulled out and got the victory.
Go off the field, you'd like Frank Beamer there, 3-0, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech.
Right.
It was an up and down season for you. You have a lot of tight games. Loss of 7 points to Moval the next week, in which Moval had a good season. A 9-point loss to a Mid-America team that tied for the conference championship. A 10-7 home loss against Benedictine. A 8-point loss to end the season versus Graceland. The only couple of or the only big game that you really weren't in that you lost was the Grandview game. Boy, Grandview, Benedictine at home, both of them. That's a heck of a home slate for you. That's sledding uphill.
Right. And on top of that, a game you didn't mention, Peru State. That was one where.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It was a close game. They were hitting at that point in time. They were somewhat up and down during the season, and when we faced them, they were ready to go. And that's something where, no doubt, it was difficult, but nonetheless, our guys pushed through it as best they could in those home games.
But yeah, looking at those games, I mean, you have a lot of those close ones. I reference the Bobby Bowden quote a lot, where first you lose big, you lose small, you win small, you win big. How much do you preach stuff like that to your kids to make sure that in those close losses that they're not killing themselves over it, but just acknowledging that it's a step in the process?
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming in this first year is going to be difficult. Losing some of those games by how close they were. We were literally just a couple plays away from having a spectacular season, in relative terms. But at the same time, a loss is a loss. Moral victories will get you fired as a coach. It comes down to winning and losing. And I definitely think the returners, the guys that were here the last few years or last couple of seasons that, a year ago they got beat by 3 touchdowns against some of those teams, they see the change and they're able to help guide some of the younger guys into it. But at the same time, the roster a year ago compared to the rosters past fall is very, very similar. And so I think a lot of those guys that were returners, that were that sophomore type guy, they got to see the change, and they got to see the fact that we gave up, 2 less touchdowns a game and scored another touchdown a game than the year prior. And I definitely think that's helping us out in the off season with just buy-in in general by these guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's, that second year as a coach is where you see so much growth. And so you get the guys to buy in, to realize what's going on. And, you could definitely be primed for a really nice season. I mean, you look at the division and what you've got in terms of returners that were all conference selections. For a 4-6 team to have that many returners that were all conference selections it tells me that the coaches in the other schools see the talent that's there at William Penn, even though the on-field didn't quite match this year.
No, yeah. I mean, I can't really put words in other people's mouths or know what they think or say. And all conference is just all conference is an award. But, we were in a situation last year where we had a short year. I mean, I came in January, but at the same time, that's late relative, compared to recruiting. Come signing day, we had one person signed last February.
Oof.
We're all focused on just evaluating coaches and inventory of equipment and facilities and all these different things, to where now we're in a situation light years ahead. I mean, by no means are where we want to be, and by no means are we that team that you're wearing a T-shirt of right now. But at the same time, we are significantly ahead of where we're at, and hopefully, we lost to Missouri Valley by 5 points. Our quarterback threw for 477 yards, and we had three times a receiver fumbled the football inside the red zone. Same thing, Benedictine losing those guys by 3 points, where the year prior, I think we lost to them by 3 touchdowns. Losing to Mid-Am by 9, where the year prior it was 3 touchdowns. Grandview, I don't like saying the stat, but we haven't scored against them in multiple years. And this past year we had a wide receiver playing quarterback because of injuries, and yet we were able to score points. Moral victories. It's not going to help you, but nonetheless, we had a very young team and talented team, and having that full year under our belt and having our first true full spring ball here will be huge for us.
Let's take a look at that team that's coming back. I mean, you've got Sterling Ramsey coming back. It's a new kind of a new system for him. 13 touchdowns, 13 picks. Young guy, 51.4% completion percentage. Still almost throws for 2,000 yards. You've got an almost 1,000-yard rusher coming back in Destin Loring. You've got Trey Mosley at wide receiver. You've got a offensive lineman in Logan Myers that was a second-team all-conference coming back. Talk to me about your offense and really getting tough up front, because, I mean, you're going to run that option.
Yeah. So, like, for us, at the end of the day, it comes down to winning games in the trenches. Offense and defensive line, and we transitioned more into my true typical traditional offense there, where more so of a power spread, and for us, talking about Sterling, I mean, at times a lot of flash, and at times you could tell he's a younger guy, somewhat inexperienced, and that's a position where we had another quarterback in camp competing for the starting job that got injured and was out the entire season. And, had that quarterback stayed healthy, not saying he would have got the job, but it would have helped pushing that quarterback room a little bit more with more competition. Running back room, you mentioned Dez. He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards, and very talented young sophomore. And we've got some older guys behind him too that aren't necessarily behind him, that are competing for that starting job. When it comes to offensive line, lost a great offensive lineman in CJ Cunningham. He was a fifth-year grad guy that came transferred here from Avila with me, and awesome person, awesome player. But that was the biggest need, and probably the biggest position that we went and tried to get some mid-year guys at. And we've got a bunch of guys in that room trying to compete for those spots. And so yeah, when it comes to offense, a year ago we had the mindset that we were going to have to win games because of our defense, and we knew we were going to have to be a defensive-oriented team. We're going to have to control the clock offensively. We're going to have to be successful in special teams, minimize penalties, and this next season might be a year we got to be a little bit more reliant on our offense to go score points. Obviously, I'm an offensive guy and I want to score 1 million points, but there's all 3 phases in the game. You got to play complementary football, and might be in a situation where those guys are obviously now, or they're juniors or seniors, and not quote unquote young pups, not their first year in the scheme, not the first year in the system, and hopefully they're in a situation where they can be more successful and get those postseason accolades and help us win those games. And instead of losing a game by 5 points, by 3 points, by 8, by 9, we're winning those games. And that's what it all comes down to.
Defensively, you do have a couple of players you got to replace, including Harlan Plummer, your first-team all-conference linebacker who racked up nearly a century's worth of tackles. One thing that I noticed as I looked up and down your defensive roster is the amount of pass breakups just up and down the roster. It's that shows from defensive line all the way to your defensive secondary, making sure that you are doing what you can to stop a play dead. I mean, it's real hard to get yards with the ball on the ground. So talk to me about your defense there and making sure that you deny opportunities.
Yeah, no, 100%. A big part of that is going to be recruiting guys that are lengthy and coaching. One big thing that we did this past year before last season was we transitioned. Coach Byers is a co-DC for us. He'd been coaching linebackers, moved him to DBs, and I felt coming in that was probably one of the weak links of the defense to an extent. The year prior had a lot of youth. You could see a lot of mental errors, and I think Coach Byers is completely changed the defense and completely changed that room to where that will likely end up being a strength for us next year. Howard Huerta, who was an All-American last year, had, I think it was 7 interceptions. He was just always in the right spot at the right time. And a lot of it comes down to coaching, and obviously that kid's work ethic and ability too. But no doubt. And then we've got a bunch of young guys and a bunch of tall, lengthy guys that it's easier for that guy who's 6'3" and has long arms to go bat the ball down. Same thing with some of those defensive ends. Do what they can to stop a quarterback from simply throwing a hitch by putting their hand up. And like you said, you can't get yards and it's an incomplete pass. And so that was huge for us. Again, I can't say enough about the coaches we got on the defensive side of the ball this past year. Coach Byers working with those DBs, Coach Garth, who came with me from Avila at linebacker, Coach Jay Burns, DC, came with me from Avila. Those guys did an outstanding job, teaching our guys up, coaching them up, getting scheme in tune with who our opponents were. And that, again, like I said, that was really the strength of the team last year, which strategically we knew that would be the case with the guys we're inheriting. And like I said, now we're to the point to where we've got to do what we can to, fill in some of those holes with a guy potentially like Harlan Plummer. Do what we can to replace those tackles as best we can.
From a big picture standpoint, what they say about nature and Newton's laws of motion is very. It works for people too. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. And when you're coming into a team that has traditionally been a 3-7, 4-6, 2-8 kind of squad, how do you get that jump start and start pushing the ball back again and getting out of that kind of maybe sort of the apathy that's been there?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, first off, leading by example. Us as coaches, the players have to understand how invested we are, how much time we're going to invest. My first 2 weeks on the job, I literally slept in my office. I was setting the tone, not just to players, but for coaches as well. And then outside of that, creating a standard and expectation and holding your guys accountable to it, coaches and players, and making sure those guys understand it. And eventually, you want to get it to where you create a culture in which your players are holding everybody accountable. Your players understand that standard. They're going to do whatever they can to try to execute and get to that standard. William Penn, last few years, 2018 until now, not a ton of wins. Averaging 3-4 wins a season. From 2007 to 17, they averaged 8.5 wins a season. Had football for 130 years. And this place, it's got all the resources. It's got the facilities. It's got this, really the biggest one's the administration, the support from administration. This place, they want to be successful in football like they've been in basketball the last few years. They want to see this place win a bunch of games. And like I said, the type of person I am, like, we lost some close games. It's still a loss. It wasn't good enough. And the administration, they understand it takes some time, but at the same time, we got to do what we can to go score some points, get on that scoreboard, win, and be successful. My previous institution, they had never had a single winning season in its entire history until my first year there, and that was probably my worst year there. We went 7-3, and again, a lot of that was having a player-run team where your players are holding guys accountable, where your players understand what you're trying to do. And then myself grinding those early years to where I am there 24/7, doing what we have to do consistently to go win games. And for me personally, like, a big thing here is just sustainable success. For you to be sustainably successful, it's going to come down to your support system. And the support here it's absolutely unreal.
And so, we see, life, whether it's, your Christian walk, whether it's your job, this, that, or the other. We always note that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. There is no staying still. There is no such thing as uh, apathy, and an apathetic life moves backwards. So, what area of your program, whether it's something on the field, whether it's something off the field, are y'all really wanting to focus in on in 2024?
Yeah, a big thing is simply finishing. Like you mentioned, some of those games are really close, and putting our guys in adverse situations where they've got to go compete. They've got to do whatever they can to find that winning edge, to push themselves. Some things that we've done so far this spring, we'll have a late night Friday night lift where every other Friday night at 11 p.m. our guys are wearing face paint, wearing cutoff, shirtless, whatever. And, we are getting it to where half our team is in the indoor doing mat drills. The other half is working out, doing a bro lift, and we'll switch and finish up at, 12:15, 12:30 in the morning on a Saturday. What I know other guys are, out watching a basketball game and going to a bar or going doing whatever at other schools. Our guys are out here competing and finishing and remembering what the scoreboard was like last year and how close we were multiple times. And for you to ultimately be in a situation where as a program you're winning a bunch of games, it can't just be a culture in which your coaches have to be the ones directing everybody and holding guys accountable. So, we've established a leadership council in which I've got 8 guys in the team that are, leading different groups to where, what are your players going to do when you're not there as a coach, when you're out on the road recruiting, or when you're, gone in meetings or whatever. How are your players acting when they're out in the community? How are your players acting in the weight room, on the field, in their dorms? And that's important for us to make sure our guys we're establishing that leadership and we're doing whatever we can to find that winning edge to go get over the hump and not lose a game by a field goal to a conference champion, to go get it done.
Well, one thing I know for certain is that the heart of America as a whole, honestly, is got to be ready to get back after it as a conference. I mean, you have Grandview last year who had a great season but falls, in the playoffs and around that. Many people, including myself, didn't think they'd be there. Graceland was inconsistent but showed flashes. Mid America was a year ahead and was very good. Baker was very good with a new head coach. Benedictine's getting it rolling. There's a lot of teams, north and south, that are looking to take that next step. Talk to me about. We're not gonna slam any other conferences here. That's not what we're about. Talk to me about the competition in the heart and all these teams trying to take that next step forward.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is from top to bottom one of the top conferences out there. I mean, consistently teams competing, fighting. Anybody could beat anybody. It's something where I was extremely surprised in how that season ended for Grandview. I mean, that was one of the most through and through best in all 3 phases teams I've seen them have in a few years. And I competed against them or coached against them when I was at Avila in 2017 and 2016, 15, those years. And no, it's a very tough conference. But at the end of the day, like for me, I'm all about whatever we can do as a conference to continuously compete, to continuously go against each other. We want to have it where our conference is being successful and they go make the playoffs. At the end of the day, you want to be the best team. You got to go beat the best teams. And we're in a situation where, again, we had a lot of close losses last year. And I think those close losses against quality opponents, like a Mid-Am team, like a Benedictine team, those teams that won conference, a year ago in the South, it's just going to make us a better football team. And at the end of the day, we got to worry obviously about the North and what we can do and the team up North, that shirt you're wearing. And, that's obviously a huge goal for us. Do whatever we can to compete against those guys. I think the last time we beat them was 2017. And that might've been their last time they've lost to a Heart North opponent. That's how difficult they've been. But, at the end of the day, anybody could beat anybody. And we're in that situation right now. We're trying to get better and improve as best we can and go out and compete week in, week out.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming on the NAIAFBALL Podcast. Appreciate you doing it, and like I said, cannot wait to see how this season unfolds. It's going to be an absolute doozy of a season.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIAFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com.